Coming up next, the Bookening. All three of your pals from the Bookening discuss the book Watership Down. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening. I am Nathan. I am, of course, your humble and obedient host. And I'm just going to say, Brandon is sincerely not fat.
Thank you.
It's true. I hadn't seen Brandon in
really
so
true.
long. My first thought was, oh no, have you been sick and like, are you okay?
Yeah. I don't
Not that Brandon was ever
know.
actually fat, but he's looking
No,
awfully
but-
slender right now.
He's looking like I was going to say like a beast, but beasts are big and burly. What's the opposite of a beast, but still a cool sounding thing?
I don't know. We're not wordsmiths on this podcast.
No. We don't give much of a rip about words at all. Brandon looks like, what's a slender beast? A lemur?
Sure.
Brandon looks like a sexy lemur.
Wow.
So
Thank you, Nathan. Like those lemurs from Madagascar.
yeah, like exactly. I have never seen a single scrap of any Madagascar movie, except for I think those penguins, those humorous penguins from Madagascar.
They are, yeah.
Okay, I saw some children's movie that had an opening. You know how sometimes they put a short in front of a movie because they just want to torture parents for even longer.
Yep.
I saw something or other that I think it was Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit had a penguin's short, and the dumb fat audience stuffed popcorn in their mouth and laughed through the penguin's short, and then Wallace and Gromit got nothing.
Really?
Just deadly silence through Wallace and Gromit, and you just realized America is dead.
Americans are stupid.
Americans
Oh my
are
goodness.
really stupid.
Have you listened to any or watched any of the Olympics broadcasts?
Yes.
Nobody's more convinced that Americans are stupid than NBC. I mean,
Yeah.
my goodness. The amount of times, like, what was it just before I came? Well, they lost somebody and she's not going to get to compete in the thing, but they're still going to work hard. And we talked to the coach and she said, but we're still going to work hard and try to place in the medals.
Really?
Were you
They
guys?
talked to the coach, and they said they're still going to work hard and try to place in the medals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that. It's like, you know what? You came in third. You took the bronze, but I bet you really wish you would have had the gold, right? No, I've spent the last 4 years of my life aiming for bronze. Thank you. I kind of think gold's
Right.
a little too ostentatious.
I worked my butt off through my entire childhood to go for the bronze. That's the phrase, isn't it?
That's how. That's how
You
it
never
works.
know.
Yeah. My poor brothers and sisters have made their entire life about this one athletic achievement for me, getting bronze.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to, and now I will be looking back on the bronze.
Maybe there was $1 million wager on it. Like, if you get the bronze, you get $1 million.
Americans are capitalists.
Yeah.
We know that.
Are you talking about the gymnast that dropped out today?
Bryles or whatever. That did
Simone
make you
Biles.
feel pretty bad about being an American.
Simone Biles dropped
That
out.
story.
Well, especially when you found out why. It was just the pressure, right? Isn't that what she claims?
Yeah, that's what she claims.
Well, the good thing about... Or go
I
ahead.
was talking about that. I was also thinking of something like last night. What do these athletes need to do to prepare for competition? Well, Cindy, I'm glad you asked. They need to be sure they get a good night's rest and that they eat well and that they come in mentally prepared. Oh, okay. It's like, this is the commentary that's just like constant throughout the Olympics. This is the most inane thing I've ever seen in my life.
We know better than anybody. Sometimes you have to inanely vamp to sort of just keep the content roll going. You have to say words, and maybe you haven't had time to think of those words, and so you're filling space. You're doing your little song and dance. There's a real art to that good broadcasters should have, and
I think that's
good
true.
sports broadcasters would have,
And the best ones do. But this is just like
right.
constant inanity. There's nothing else.
Jake, I'm getting a lot of from your microphone. If you want to,
Not mine though.
no, Brandon, you're good actually. I don't know what to tell you to adjust, but
Probably just
tell you
need
I'm getting a lot
to
of-
be a little bit more to an angle here. I'm not where I'm normally set up.
yeah, that already sounds better. Well, guys, I don't think we should put it off any longer. Let's talk about the best book we've read in a long time, in my humble opinion. I don't know how you compare it to Invisible Man, but the book I've had the most fun with that we've read in a long time,
Duncow.
Watership Duncow. Yeah, let's never talk about Watership Down. Let's just skip to Duncow, which everybody's been waiting with bated breath for us to talk about.
Yeah.
No. Listen, Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese, and also asked us to read Duncow. I think I can say we're gonna have fun talking about Duncow, and I'm glad you recommended it. I don't know whether I like the book, but I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. So
Yep, I
don't
agree.
you feel bad about recommending Duncow, even though it might be terrible. I'm not sure. But in any case, let's talk about something that's not terrible, which is Watership Down. I don't think we've talked about our baggage, have we? I don't know.
I don't know
think
what
so.
we've talked about at this point.
Yeah, who knows? Let's just do a Watership Down podcast for the ages. Jake, what baggage did you bring to Watership Down?
No baggage with the book itself. Just a bunch of people telling me it's the greatest thing ever. I've talked about here before, I don't have a lot of childhood experience with Redwall or any of the kind of like animal-driven stories. This is Narnia and stuff like that, but not a lot of animals as main characters type of stuff. In my childhood, not a lot of personal baggage with anything like that, except that everybody likes rabbits for some reason, and that's kind of annoying. So,
Yes, that is a fantastic point, and one that I had not thought of, but I think does inform one of the reasons why I've never actually read this book before, which is everybody likes rabbits, A, and B, that's kind of annoying.
yeah.
That is a great insight into humanity at large and into your own mental processes and the mental processes of myself, and I'm sure some of our listeners. Any other baggage to...
I don't think so. It's kind of I think I probably imagined more of a goofy, I think I had seen a cover of like rabbits on a boat or something like that instead of like the board or whatever, the log, and it's like Watership Down and whatever. I think I had imagined more of like we got pirate rabbits or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You were really trying to put together what Watership, the
in
water
this like
part of
image
Watership.
or the image that maybe made up that I had, just this impression or something. I don't know. It's just like I don't get it.
That would be
That's
an interesting
interesting.
book.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And a
that would be an
stupider one,
interesting book. And a stupider one. I mean, who doesn't want to read about pirate rabbits? My impression of the book was quite different, actually, kind of the opposite. But we'll get to that. Brandon, what baggage did you bring to Watership Down, my friend, my svelte friend?
I do think that you and I have talked a bit about our baggage, Nathan, because I told you about the book that was at my granddad's house.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're
And
all
so-
together.
We're all
so,
together.
Yeah.
It was a book called Rabbit Hill, I think was what it was called. I've already forgotten the author. We looked it up
Mhm.
and found out that it was written before Watership
Yes.
Down. But that was the book that was there, and it was fine. It was okay. And I think I read that and then just thought that Watership Down was just going to be something very similar, and so I just never was excited to watch it. I didn't watch the movie growing up. I did like Beatrix Potter, but this seemed to be a very different sort of thing. So
Mhm.
I just never got around to reading it. And so Watership Down was just not a part of my life at all as a young man.
Right.
Or a boy, I wish I had. I think it's great.
Yeah. Kind of book you want your kids to
Yeah,
read.
I've my kids are. I mean, I have one kid, and she's not really all that sentient at this point. But I would love to make this book part of her experience of childhood. Probably just by plopping her in front of that Netflix movie while I work. I think that's the best way to handle
Probably
it.
the best way to do it. Yeah.
The TV's the best babysitter.
A TV is the best babysitter.
Especially Netflix.
Especially, yeah, Netflix
Yeah.
loves kids. So my baggage is I hate Call of the Wild. And that's important because I don't like animal stories that aren't anthropomorphic. And that's what I thought Watership Down was. I thought it was, I actually had an opposite kind of impression of it from what Jake did. Jake thought it was going to be more kind of silly. And I think because I'd tried to read the first 5 pages, and the first 5 pages are kind of off-putting, I think. I mean, they wouldn't be on a second reading. But it's just like, there were some rabbits, and they were doing rabbit things, and it was very rabbity.
And for some reason, one of them has visions.
Yeah, but even getting to
that part was hard. Because it's like, he introduces so many characters and so much like lore lingo type stuff that I just couldn't get. I had a really hard time getting going. And then I thought, well, I'll switch to audio. And then I thought, that's worse. And then I went back and powered through the first, I don't know, however many pages until I felt a little bit of a hook, switched, and then I could move back and forth between it and audio and was pretty gripped.
Yeah, once this book gets going, it's awesome. But the first like 5 or 6 pages are just, for me, and it sounds like for Jake too, just not very hooky.
They pretty much have to leave the Warren. Like,
yeah, I think so too. And you're meeting all these guys, these rabbits, and they have all these names.
And you don't know who's going to matter and who's not.
Right. Once they sort of start to define once you realize Hazel, Fiver, and Bigwig are your 3, then you're golden. But to me, it's the experience of, I don't know, there's certain movies, Dead Poet Society is one of them, where it's all these British schoolboys. They all have the same haircut. They all have the same facial structure. They all are like these white boys. And maybe watching it now, knowing some of the actors, I would be able to distinguish them. But I don't know, have you ever watched a movie where the filmmaker fails to give one guy a mustache and one guy a red shirt and one guy a this and one guy a that, and then you're just struggling?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was kind of my experience of trying Watership Down. Plus, I had this idea that it was going to be very rabbity and rabbit-centric and not romanticized. And I loved the Redwall books, which are a little bit more like what Jake's impression of Watership Down. It was like rabbits playing dress up with swords. Basically, you could just forget that. Yeah, Green Ember. I mean, Redwall used the animals, I think, better than the piece of white supremacist crap that Brandon has said now multiple times Green Ember is. Brandon's shaking his head.
Wait,
you just really want to get us into trouble. No, I have never said this. This is now a shtick. Nathan is running with this.
I'm
taking
it out of the Warren, baby.
I mildly criticize the Green Ember, which my kids really like.
My wife and kids love it.
Now Nathan wants to accuse me of... he's just playing off the fact that every time we even offer mild criticism of any beloved children's book, we get branded as Nazis. So
right. Green Ember? More like white supremacist. I think those were Brandon's exact words.
Those were my exact words.
You said anyone who reads Green Ember is a racist, and I don't know. You went on from there.
I don't appreciate you calling my wife and kids that.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
I didn't appreciate it either. I tried to stop Brandon. I was like giving him the hand across the throat gesture. And he was like, what? What's wrong with your throat? What's wrong with your throat, Nathan? Anyway, there's a whole thing. And that's 100% true.
Sounds true.
What was I talking about? Oh, so I hate stories that are from animals' points of view and don't do anything to humanize the animals. Like, I don't know. I find it creepy and like borderline offensive or something. Like, I really do not enjoy Call of the Wild, just actually entering into the mind of a dog. Like, it just, I don't know.
You don't want to enter into the mind of a dog.
No, I don't want to enter. I'm a human. I don't know if people know this. They can't actually see me. This is an audio form, but I am a human being.
It would make it much clearer if you weren't always dressed in a giant dog costume.
It would, but what kind of a life would that be?
I don't know. Oh, man. Do you have to cut that?
So I just, there's something about animal stories that are from the perspective of, that are trying to, that liminal space where it's like we're using human words to express actual animal feelings. It really doesn't work for me. I kind of
like
me out. What's that?
Kind of like liminal space. Good
it
use of that word.
Yeah, or like people describe the uncanny valley effect. It triggers that kind of a thing in me. I really don't like those kinds of stories. I mean, it could be a story about a dog where we don't even get into his thoughts, where it's just like the dog did this. That's fine.
Like
or it
Jaws.
can be, I don't mind Jaws.
It's a shark doing shark things.
How about Homeward Bound?
Homeward Bound, I loved as a kid. I think it split the difference precisely in the way that I like, because basically you had a bunch of celebrities vamping, and
Yeah.
then you had some animals running around.
How about
and my
Milo
brain
and
could
Otis?
Milo and Otis bothered me a little bit. I mean, I like the part where they fling the cat off of the waterfall to get their shot. Milo and Otis, very cruel to animals were harmed in the making of that film.
So you just like any movie that actually has animal cruelty in it.
I'm going to die, said Otis.
Free-
yes, you
Free
are,
Willy.
said Milo. Free Willy's fine. I mean, I don't care about Free Willy one way or another. It doesn't bother me because it's just like, he's a whale. But it's not so much of a movie thing. It's a book thing. It's more of a book thing.
Yeah, I didn't even think when I was thinking about animal characters, but I didn't think about like all of Disney or, it
Right.
just didn't occur to me.
You know what's a really good example of something that splits the difference poorly, and the whole everybody agrees with me on this: The Lion King, the Jon Favreau Lion King.
Yeah, where the creatures are more photorealistic.
But they have these actors trying to give them life, and that's
But you
an
can't because
example
of
of
the
how I
facial
sort of feel
expressions
when
that
I
you
read
can't
like
animate.
Just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel that kind of weird, creepy liminality kind of feeling when I read something like Call of the Wild. And I always thought that that's what Watership Down was. And it turns out, even in the places where you can tell that Richard Adams loves rabbits and wants to teach you about rabbits, he's still creating his own mythology, and they've got a Fafra and all this. They've got all this crap, which makes the book work for me. It's basically a hero's journey with really well-defined characters who happen to have this weird culture that kind of corresponds to rabbit culture. But it thoroughly lands on one side of that uncanny valley, and it's a wonderful book, as everybody knows. But it really repelled me, and especially those first 5 pages or so, which I think I tried multiple times because I knew people loved that book, and I loved Redwall, and everybody always said, if you love Redwall, if you like Redwall, then you'll love Watership Down. Like, this is the text of animal adventure stories. You got to read Watership Down. So it's not like I didn't try, but I don't know. It's actually quite similar to Dune. I tried Dune a number of times, but Princess Aurelian's crap would always bog me down, and I could never get through it. So this time, luckily, I had the podcast looking over my shoulder, kind of cracking the whip, and I had to do it. And I did the same thing that Jake did, where I tried to listen to it in audio, and that really messed it up because you're getting all those names and everything so fast. So I had to go and read with my eyeballs the first 2 or 3 chapters, and then once I found the hook, I was able to listen. But yeah,
The podcast is always watching.
The podcast is always watching. He loved the podcast.
What was the name of the government in 1984?
Oh, we should know this.
Oceania?
Yeah, it's like that. That should be a t-shirt. We should get a picture of your face, like a Stalin-esque picture of your face. And then below it says read.
The fact that there's not a Stalin-esque picture of my face with read.
Design the shirt.
Yeah.
I'd wear that. I'd wear that shirt.
That'd be the next. It could be the 3 of us and it just say read underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like what's like that picture? Somebody could adapt that picture of us at Jeremy's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. And that deserves to be a poster or something.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you want to see that picture, go to patreon.com/the Bookening. Sign up for a low, low amount to support the podcast today.
Give us money.
Give us money, yeah. By the way, I think we never actually had this discussion, but I think we can have it on mic because we all agree. When we make it to 2K, we're going to do a deep dive of Anna Kay.
That's right.
Right? That's what
100%.
That's what the fans want. That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants. So
A whole year long.
it's going to be as long as
It's going to be as long as
by chapter.
It's going to be as long as it needs to be, Brandon.
right.
It'll
be like a wizard's arrival. It will be precisely what it needs to.
We're going to do a close reads.
We will closely read. We're not going to do a close reads.
Yeah. So did you ever look at their book list? It looks like they just do whatever we do.
Brandon, don't pick up. Okay. Well, let's talk about Watership Down. What you
That's
guys think
probably
about
convenient
this?
for the crossover listeners. That's probably
It
they're
is.
probably just being
That's-
considerate.
That's
It's
why they do it.
Convenient for cross-dressers. Let's talk about Watership Down. We're back, baby. The Bookening's back.
In rare form.
Bookening's back again.
Bookening's back.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. We're from the 90s. Okay.
You bet.
Hey,
we all listened to Marshall Mathers back in the day.
Yes, we did. All right. Speaking of great artists, let's talk about Richard Adams' Watership Down. What'd you guys think about that? Watership Down.
I loved it. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's a good book.
I thought it was fine.
I really enjoyed it. I think if you want my full judgment, I think, and I may not be the first of us to have said this, so I may not deserve the credit for it, but I think that it's right there with The Hobbit in terms of just truly great children's adventure literature.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think I would docket a few points from Hobbit greatness because Richard Adams, if he is a Christian, which I think Brandon in his context said maybe he kind of is or has claimed.
There are quotes out there to suggest he is.
Well, insofar as he is or is not, I would say his book is less than The Hobbit, ultimately, in terms of reflecting values that
it has a completely pagan mythology to it.
Right. And, you know.
So does Tolkien.
But I don't even know how to quantify it. I just know I feel a little bit better about Tolkien in terms of what I would want to share with my kid, I guess.
Yeah.
It's comparing gold to other gold. They're wonderful.
And I think that Richard Adams is a great writer, but I think Tolkien has him beat. So as far as style.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's the only other thing I would add, but not beat by much. I was joking. I thought this is great. This is a good book. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we've read a lot of children's books on the Bookening, and we've kind of had a track record of being like, about a lot of them. This might be, I mean, short of Charlotte's Web and The Hobbit, this is definitely
that's
the best
the top
children's
three
book we've been. Yeah.
That's the list, and there's nothing else that we've read that cracks that list.
Right. Well, I would say
some also rans or honorable mentions, but
well, how would we define this book's greatness? I mean, what are we responding to? What is everybody responding to? Like what makes this book so great?
Well, I think you partly already touched on it with the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has just the classic hero's journey, and it's a believable world. One of the things, I know the first few pages are hard to get into, but he really knows how to paint this British countryside so you feel like you're there. One of the things he does really well, and it's actually like, it's a thing that Cormac McCarthy does too, like to give the Texas countryside some flesh and bones, he'll actually name the plants.
Yes.
Like, and then you'll just have to imagine what this plant might look like, but he'll give the plants names. And so from the very beginning, this Richard Adams, he's doing the same thing. He's naming what would be there.
Yeah, and I appreciate the way he does that more than Tolkien. Tolkien will tell you that that's what he's doing. And then I know that you guys, this is part of what you love about Tolkien, but it's part of what at times I find most boring about Tolkien is, and now I'm going to paint the countryside for you. And then he goes on for 2 pages painting the countryside. And Adams doesn't do that, but he's always giving you details and sparking your imagination.
Yeah. Well, Tolkien gets the privilege of just making up whatever plant he wants to.
Right.
It's now kingsfoil and elfin tree and whatever he wants to.
Whatever he wants to call it.
Troll weed.
Yep, he's always going on about troll weed and elfin tree. I love specificity and description. Even if I don't know what it is and I never bother to look it up, I love it when someone uses the word for a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is exactly, but it always sparks my imagination. I hate authors that avoid brand names. Like, I'd rather the character be drinking a Coke or a Pepsi than a cola product.
No, yeah. I mean, so when I read that first paragraph, I was like, wow, this is, as far as description of plants and meadows and countryside, it was one of my favorite paragraphs outside of, I think it's in All the Pretty Horses, where he's describing the country, the Texas countryside. Mm-hmm. He's talking about I don't even know the names of all the flowers he's using, but like the gorse brush and the mesquite and all these things.
Right.
And McCarthy's doing, and it gave it a sort of weight and reality, but also there's some sort of poetry to that. I don't know what it is. but there's some sort of just simple beauty in naming the actual plant, giving it some flesh and bones within the story, and not just saying there were purple and red flowers and the hills were green.
Well, he's done, McCarthy feels like he's always done his homework so well.
Yeah.
That like he's just really done all of the research and done all the homework. And
if he says this kind of grass is growing, it's because that kind of grass
would
grows
be what grows there.
Right there in that little patch of Texas.
Exactly right. And so then as an outsider who doesn't know, you just get the sort of like wonder of the specificity of it all. But the more you're like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love the authority of it. It's one of the things that I enjoy about reading Raymond Chandler is he'll just name drop these LA locations and these street names. I went to this street in LA and I don't know what that street is. Doesn't mean anything to me, but it sure does make Raymond Chandler and Philip Marlowe sound like they know what they're talking about. And that lends a kind of poetry and weight to it.
It means something to somebody, right? If you're from LA, it's got to be that much more rich because it's actually real.
Yeah, I love that kind of thing. And I love the kind of poetry that you can get just with the cadence of words. Mesquite, or I don't know. I don't know enough about plants to even come up with a fake example here, and I stupidly don't have the book sitting in front of me.
Elder tree, I think it was.
Elder tree.
Yeah.
Elder tree.
Trollweed.
Trollweed, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always think of William Zinsser, the second greatest writing book on how to write after Strunk and White. Elements of Style. He says, the mistake that high schoolers always make is they say, the grass was a glorious green. And he says, never tell us that the grass was green. You can tell us that the grass was purple. That's interesting. But if you're going to summon all your descriptive powers of poetry to tell us that the grass was green, we know that the grass is green. Shut up. Stop wasting our time. And that's just describes all of high school writing. Young Nathan, young Brandon, young Jake, people who are actually have an ear and are trying, what they'll inevitably do is they'll use their ear and then they'll try and describe something that you kind of already know and that isn't actually informing the plot or the poetry.
Yep.
Either one. Yep.
Nothing is richer for you having described green grass.
Right. No matter, you could be Shakespeare and it's like, no, don't. The reason Shakespeare's Shakespeare is because 9 times out of 10, he's not going to tell me that the grass was green. He might tell me that it's something
He'll
else.
allude to something else that gives you a picture of very green grass in your mind.
Right. Yeah.
As part of the story he's telling.
But that's a way of telling what kind of green, and that in and of itself is a detail.
Or he's just going to talk about it being springtime, and you're just going to imagine the green that you love in spring. And he doesn't have to describe anything. He just lets you supply it.
Well, the other thing that I love about Watership Down is it plays on 2 levels really well. It's got that sort of metatextual quality of at any given point you can kind of step outside and realize, this entire adventure I could drive 20 minutes and get across it. They've gone a few farmhouses or something. So it's like one of those stupid Bugs
maybe
Life
they've
or
traveled
ants.
a whole mile.
Right. Exactly. But then whenever they come to a new location, it's full of foreboding and adventure, and you're like, what's going to happen here? And that's the other thing. The description is just tied to the plot in a way that is more similar to The Hobbit than it is to Lord of the Rings.
He can play around with some defamiliarization of things, like when they come to the road and the car, and Bigwig knows what the cars are. Kind of. He hasn't quite figured it out, but he's got handles that nobody else has. Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, call me an idiot, and maybe you both will, but in that kind of Die Hard scene where the bad guy gets offed by the train, it took me a little while to figure out, he got killed by a train when they're being pursued, and then someone gets hit by the moving iron thing. I don't even remember exactly what the plot thing is, but there's a bad guy rabbit or something that's after them that gets hit by a train.
Right.
And I had to step outside of it and do the math for a minute. It wasn't just obvious to me.
Yeah, it's written really well. I actually anticipated somebody getting hit by that train by the way it was set up. So I felt it. I think I saw that one coming. So I was able to see it in motion, but it was really well done, I thought.
Especially since that rabbit kept carrying a red handbag.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it symbolized something. Symbolized something boring. I don't remember what. Why hasn't someone written a portmanteau novel of
Anna Karenina.
Watership Down and Anna Karenina?
I don't know.
That'd be
something.
They've done Pride and Prejudice with zombies. Why haven't they done Anna Karenina with rabbit?
I mean, it seems
it's a little
just
too
like the
obvious
next-
and on the nose, in my opinion. Rabbits and Anna
you
Karenina.
People would feel like they'd already read it almost. It's just
You're just talking about replacing all the main characters with rabbits.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Man, well, you said defamiliarization, Brandon, and I think that gets at the heart of what I loved about this book so much. It is an adventure, but it's really hard for me to predict what's going to happen because it's happening in this rabbit world, and you have enough handles that you're always like, oh yeah, okay, I get it after something happens, but you're never exactly sure what the threat is going to be going into it.
Yeah. You just carry it along all the way through.
And that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
You know, like I watch a Star Wars movie. At this point, we've seen enough Star Wars movies. We kind of know what the sorts of threats are. Yeah, it could be another kind of monster, but we basically know what monsters do in Star Wars. You watch or read.
Monsters do what gangsters do, what bounty hunters do, what pirates do.
Right.
What Sith do.
But strangely enough, in the confines of this novel, it all seems obvious after the fact. But for example, with the hippie Lotus Eater thing, you kind of know where it's going. You know that they've traded safety for something, but you don't know what that threat is going to ultimately look like, how violent it's going to be, how scary it's going to be. You don't have a good way of, or I didn't have a good way of predicting, like, is it going to be poison gas? Is it going to be a tractor? Is it going to be the snare that it ultimately was? And so it's a lot of fun just to, like, even a fantasy novel, it's like you read a fantasy novel and you kind of know, like, well, there's going to be the bad guy army or the dragon type thing, or the sort of know what the categories are. But Watership Down, weirdly, for a book that's full of nothing but prosaic things,
it makes
you never know where the danger is coming from.
a lot of mundane things mythical in a really fun, cool way. It's like if you'd grown up on a farm, the trap you set for the rabbit, it's this big, huge deal. Of course it would be a big, huge deal to rabbits. It kills them.
Right. Did you guys think he was being preachy? I could never quite decide how. I mean, I knew he was ecologically motivated to write this book one way or another. Like, he cares about rabbits and he thinks that humans are stupid but he has a light enough touch about it that I could never quite decide where he wanted us to land. And then you have the big scene at the end where we really step outside of things and we have the
little girl
and all that kind of thing.
I mean, I never got the sense that he was being preachy. There are books like, I mean, even The Lord of the Rings, I think he's preachier about the Ents with Saruman than I feel like Richard Adams is being with the rabbits. I think it was more just an inevitable relationship between man and beast that we're going to tear these things down, and it adds some momentum to the story, but then not all people are bad. You have the little girl Lucy at the end who saves Hazel. So
carries him in the car.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it was preachy. I did worry about that at the beginning when, oh no, the evil people are going to come and destroy the whole warren. But I mean, if you're going to tell a rabbit story, who preys on rabbits? Beside it's going to be people and foxes and weasels and crap and hawks. That's it.
Yeah, I would always kind of worry about it. It'd be like, there's the people with their smoking sticks and their, you'd think it was going somewhere that was going to be pretty preachy, but it never really jumped the shark. What did you guys think about the world building in general? I found like it does a lot of things that I'm usually irritated by, and I couldn't quite decide why I wasn't irritated by them in this particular case. Like all the words and the Fafra and the thing that they call the sun, the thing that they call this and the this and the that, and there's all this rabbit lore. And oftentimes with these kinds of books, I'm like, I'm not a rabbit. I don't care. Just call it the name of that I know. Like, I don't want to enter into the mythology of this too much. Like,
it reminded me.
I'm surprised I didn't find it off-putting. Actually,
it reminded me of Dune somehow in similar ways, and I couldn't tell you why. but it just felt complete enough in and of itself without being overwhelming. I mean, Tolkien feels complete. Tolkien also, I don't know. It just hints at enough that I don't know how to. I liked it.
Yeah,
I like the breaks for the stories and all of it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He
how
also
to,
gets it's a little bit like Beowulf in the sense that he has the benefit of just telling a story that's in a setting that we can all fairly easily imagine. Right, everybody can easily imagine a Hrothgar, a Harrod, whatever it is, the hall where they're all at there. And here, you just had to be able to imagine a meadow and some fields, and then fill in the rest. But he still is able to build out the world of Woundwort and the farms, and add some mythology behind it that really works. But he's not having to really develop outside of just the specificity of the place that he does really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. But I don't know. It didn't bother me.
Yeah,
I wasn't concerned about it.
Like with Dune, Dune bothered you, right, Brandon? I mean, did you want to know as much about Dune as you got? Were you happy every time Princess Aurelian put pen to paper?
No, I found myself oddly not caring.
Yeah, that poetry stuff was stupid, I thought, but
the poetry stuff
in Watership Down.
No, in Dune, like the crap at the beginning of.
Oh, like the little italicized blurbs of. I mean, some of it was effective just as set dressing that we needed, but it got awfully irritating when we had to learn about the Bene Gesserit history. And it's like, here's the thing that Watership Down does that Dune does poorly. I think we talked about this when we talked about Dune. You never feel like the word Bene Gesserit was inevitable. You kind of feel like he was just thinking, what's a cool word for my sisterhood of satanic nuns? Like, what would actually Bene Gesserit isn't a good example because I actually think it is a pretty cool one. But there's any number of terms that I don't remember now from Dune that you're just like,
pulled that out of a hat.
It's a little bit like in Star Wars, The Clone Wars. I was just watching one with Savage Opress.
Right.
And it kind of works. Like, you're like, okay, you're having fun.
They thought it was pretty funny.
You were bored. You were bored. It took you 20 minutes to write this crap. And then you... Great. But...
you never can tell in the Clone Wars how much the writers are just like...
winking,
getting a kick and winking versus how much George Lucas was there behind the scenes saying his name should be Savage Oppressor, but let's change the way that we pronounce it to Savage Oppress.
Because he's savage, guys, and he's oppressed, and he oppresses people.
Is that what it is?
And then you got this writer's room where they're like, okay. Yeah, that's cool, George. Sure,
yep.
Sure thing. Yeah,
great.
Uh-huh. we'll go with that too. Sure, you're the man.
Well, Duncow will be an interesting counterpoint to this too, in terms of his world building and Hal's moving castle, I guess. But I don't know. More broadly, I'm just trying to piece together a theory here. What makes world building feel inevitable? Like what makes you not stop to ask the question? Because obviously, Richard Adams probably did just pull a Fafra out of a hat. It is just a nonsense word, ultimately. But some fantasy or sci-fi or things like that, you read that and it just feels inevitable and you don't even stop to think about that. Obviously, Tolkien was a master, but we kind of know why Tolkien was a master because he really developed these internally consistent languages and all that kind of stuff.
Tolkien's a linguist who is very intentionally using things that resonate, like he knows what he's doing. I think that Adams, when it came to the words that he chose, he knew at least one thing, if not more, which is a lot of our words are onomatopoetic. Mm-hmm. And we don't think about how inevitable many of the words we have actually are.
Right.
But if you were rabbits, what would the onomatopoetic word for some of the more common things that we just take for granted, what would they be? And I think that's part of how it works.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of them? Arira.
Arira.
Yeah, it also works a little bit because he's using words that already sound a bit mythic and
Welsh.
so, like
Scottish.
Jake said, Welsh, Scott, even like El Shaddai. You know,
Yeah.
there's just a ring to it that already. I think in our head has that. In our Western consciousness has that sort of ring of deep mythology to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that's one way he gets around it. And also what Jake's saying, the onomatopoetic aspect to it, just the alliteration, it just makes it sound very simple. You can imagine if rabbits were to name their places or their gods, it would be Afrafa, it would be El, however you say it, things like that.
Yeah. I'm realizing as you talk that it probably is, for me, as much that just it's a linguistic thing. And the reason that so much of Dune, the terms and place names seemed bad for me or made me stop or I stumbled over in Dune was because he was drawing from kind of Eastern Islamic, those kinds of weird constructions, Maudib and the Cuisart Haderach and things like that with all the apostrophes and stuff like that.
Cuisinart.
Yeah, the Cuisinart Sazerac.
Yeah.
I could go for a Sazerac.
I could go for a Cuisinart Sazerac. We've never trusted. Yeah, never mind. We've never dropped a touch of alcohol on this podcast.
Never had one drop fall to the ground.
Fall to the ground. No, they've all gone directly to our heads.
Yeah. That sentence, wow, that was hard for you to say. I'm pretty sure that was not all alcohol induced.
No, that was the Cuisinart of my brain.
Yeah,
must have had some Sazeracs or something. I don't know, man.
Just the thought of it.
Well, I want to on next week's Watership Down episode, I want to talk about our favorite rabbits and our favorite scenes and geek out a little bit. But any bigger picture thoughts about Watership Down?
No, other than I really think that people should read it.
Read it with your kids.
If you have time, read it with.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you have time, read it with your kids. It's a long one.
I think it's a great. I know that we're almost done with the summer, but if you're taking an end of summer road trip, it's a great one to listen to. I mean, I like the Audible recording.
Did you do, because there's two? There's Peter Capaldi, and then there's a different one.
Oh, Peter Capaldi reads it? I didn't know that.
Well, there's, like I said, there's one that Peter Capaldi read. I listened to the other one, and I thought the other one was awesome.
I listened to.
Curious.
Yes, I listened to Peter Capaldi, and I thought it was awesome. Peter
Capaldi's great.
Yeah, well,
he was pretty much the only one of the good Doctor Who's.
Yeah, he was a fine Doctor Who. I don't know that he was the only good Doctor Who.
I don't know why I said that. It was one of those extreme statements you say, and then you wonder why you said it.
Yeah, I wondered too. Real David Tennant hater here.
No, I actually like David Tennant, and Matt Smith was fine too.
Yeah,
I don't.
So was the guy before them was just great.
I don't know why I said it, Nathan. I think
Can you name a bad Doctor Who?
Maybe the modern woman one.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we can talk about this criticism of gender roles in the next episode too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
People get really mad about this book and its sexism.
Oh,
yep.
Right.
Babies, basically the does are just passive baby factories or something like that.
Yep.
Kind of like rabbits.
Nathan.
The way that we feel as conservative Christians about women, they're kind of like rabbits.
Yeah. I make my wife wear a little pair of rabbit ears.
Now we know who the true furry is.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Or the true Hugh Hefner. Brendan does just wear a red bathrobe.
All the time.
All the time. Okay, well, let's shout out some patrons. How about that?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Brandon, is it time for us to have a new shtick?
Yeah, my wife is... speaking of my wife, she's pretty done with the whole Frankenstein Dracula thing.
Yeah, she can just turn it off.
She could. She doesn't have to listen to this part.
No, people have to listen to this part, though. In fact, let's say one awesome insight about Watership Down somewhere in the middle of this part. So people have to listen to it, because I do not support people turning off the donor shoutouts.
Well, you're on the hook for that, Nathan.
All right. I'm going to load up an insight.
Oh, boy.
I'm so happy. The Bookening's back, baby.
I have a way that we can shake it up a bit. You just
Shake
wait.
up the shtick.
Let's hear it.
Go ahead, Nathan. Say the first one.
Oh, okay. All right. Somebody want to tell people what they have to do to join the hallowed list Hall of Fafra or whatever?
Patreon.com/thebookening. For $10 or more, you can become a shout it out patron.
You can give less and not be shouted out.
You can.
don't have to give $10.
You can give any amount of money you want to. You can give $1 million a month if you want to. You would get shouted out for that. But yeah, there's all kinds of behind the scenes content there. And so go support us at patreon.com/thebookening. $25 a month. You get a t-shirt once a year, brand new, completely different, unique.
We do not send out ratty old
I meant
t-shirts.
unique.
Take a T-shirt from our.
One of our most popular
Closets.
reward levels is $50 a month. For $50 a month, you get
Great reward level.
the shout out, the t-shirt, and you get every book that we read here on the Bookening in advance, personalized by the three of us. So we write you a little note. Nathan sometimes draws pictures. It's fun. It's cool. And you get high quality copies of all the books so your library grows as you support us.
No Dover thrift editions
No, nice stuff.
from us.
Yep. $100 a month, you can pick one of our books.
Yep. We're about to read one pretty soon. Book of the Dun Cow is... Book of the Dun Cow, Rebecca, and Ender's Game, I think, were all patron choices this year, and
Wow.
very excited to read those. All right. I'm going to say a patron, and then the new shtick
Yeah.
will begin. Carry a big shtick. Robert and Rhonda the Lovebirds.
Frankenstein.
I had a feeling. I
The
like
Artful
it.
Anthony Dodger.
Dracula.
It's a change, Nathan. Don't you love it?
I don't even remember. Is it a change? Did you
It
guys
is,
swap?
yeah,
Is
that's the
this a
change,
bit here? You guys swap?
Yeah.
It feels
Oh,
nice.
man. This is
It
great.
feels so fresh and new.
It feels so fresh and new.
How did that even start?
I don't know.
I think it probably started with, no, because we haven't been doing it since literal readings of
Frankenstein
or Dracula.
No,
'Cause
it feels...
that's like year 2 stuff.
Yeah, it feels...
We must have had a conversation about which was better, and then
It might go back to Halloween, of 2020, where it was how many Draculas, or pick your favorite sci-fi, your favorite Halloween character or monster or something like that, and we just got stuck
Yeah.
on...
You mean Ball of Scream?
I really don't know what she wants.
You really don't want...
We've named types of candy before. What else? What are the other things we could do?
What do you think your wife would like us to do?
I don't know.
I think what we were doing was probably pretty great. Probably
Yeah, I
exactly
think
what
she's
she
probably
wanted.
Really
Yeah.
excited. So I neigh like a horse or something. I don't know.
Hey, neigh like a horse.
What? Just keep moving on.
Little Anthony Cigar Store.
Dracula.
Frankenstein.
The Immortal Chelsea E.
Frankenstein.
Dracula.
Yeah, I'm glad you're getting into it too there.
Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Spookly.
Frankenstein.
I'm not going to put us through that. Lily of the Valley, Andrew Nestor, the Lovebirds, the Keep
Dracula,
Master, David
Dracula,
Twentyman, Turkey, John and Joe,
Dracula,
Michael,
Dracula,
David,
Dracula,
Katie,
Frankenstein.
Lavender's green,
Dylan, Lavender's blue. Lavender's green, Dylan.
I love you too. No, Christopher,
Rachel.
Jujitsu Jeffrey the Texas Ranger.
Frankenstein.
Librarian, Barbarian, John Bobadilla, Bob Diggity, Captain Neil's Maid, Saxophone Alice, the other saxophone Alice, the dubstep, Ryan, the Terror of Texas, and Eric of the Cream, no longer Ben Solo and Kylo Ren, John the Cosmic King, Matthew the Mind Flayer, and here, okay, get your gun, Flight of the Valkyrie, Thor, Dragon Josh, Stephen, Pegalodon,
Frankenstein.
Christopher, the Flower, Hulk, Lady of the Crystal Lake, Ian, the Dathomarian, Lord of Death,
Dracula.
Frankenstein.
a man in possession of an Emily is in want of nothing.
Frankenstein.
Dracula.
Emily Nightshade, the haunter of dreams.
Dracula.
Frankenstein.
All about the Benjamin.
Dracula.
Frankenstein.
That's it.
Our names just keep getting better and better as we go down the list.
I agree.
I think so too.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think you can argue with Annie, Are You Okay? Get Your Gun, Flight of the Valerie, Thor Ragnarok, Stephen ... Pegalodon, Christopher the Flower Hulk. No arguing with Christopher the Flower Hulk.
Annie, Are You Okay? Get Your Gun might be our best.
Lady of the Crystal Lake, Ian the Dathomirian, Lord of Death, A Man in Possession of an Emily is in Want of Nothing.
That's pretty
Emily
good.
Nightshade, The Haunter of Dreams, all about the Benjamin. I mean, yeah. Annie, Are You Okay? Get Your Gun might be the best. It's true. But no shade on anyone else. All right. Goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye.
Happy screams.
Goodbye.
Good day.
Until the green ember rises. You racists.